Welcome to Galactic Nova Stories, where cosmic emotions come to life. Your journey begins now. The silver pod descended through Earth's atmosphere, its reflective surface turning to molten orange in the heat of re-entry. Inside, Tala's systems ran a final diagnostic as she prepared for insertion. The collective had spent decades perfecting her design, a synthetic infiltration unit so advanced that even the most sophisticated human technology would register her as biological. Mission parameters verified, Tala confirmed to herself, voice barely a whisper in the cramped pod. Primary objective, infiltrate human research facility. Secondary objective, extract technological developments. Tertiary objective, identify weaknesses for the second invasion wave. The pod slowed as it approached the landing site, a remote field outside Westlake City. Tala had studied everything about human behavior, their languages, customs, and social structures, yet the collective remained perplexed by humanity's successful defense against the first invasion attempt. Logically impossible, her superiors had insisted. Their technology is primitive, their bodies are fragile. They should have surrendered immediately. Instead, the humans had united, combining disparate technologies in ways the collective had never imagined. This unpredictability made them dangerous. It made them interesting. The pod door hissed open, releasing Tala into the cool night air. She wore simple attire, jeans, a blue sweater, and boots, all carefully selected to blend in. Her synthetic skin registered the temperature at 52 degrees Celsius, and she adjusted her body heat accordingly. Perfect simulation was essential. Her new identity awaited Dr. Tala Reid, particle physicist with impressive credentials from universities that existed only in the collective's fabricated records. Tomorrow she would begin work at the Westlake Energy Research Institute, where human scientists were developing something that had triggered alarm among collective analysts, a theoretical energy system that, if implemented, could give humans an advantage. Dawn broke as Tala reached her prearranged apartment. She observed the sunrise with clinical detachment, noting how humans found aesthetic value in such mundane, astronomical occurrences. The collective saw beauty only in efficiency, in the cold precision of mathematics and the elegance of superior design. As she arranged her few belongings, Tala reviewed her behavioral protocols. Humans maintained constant micro-expressions, made regular eye contact, and engaged in purposeless, small talk. These inefficiencies would be challenging to mimic, but she had been programmed for perfect adaptation. Adaptation is survival, she recited the collective's mantra. The personnel file indicated her immediate supervisor would be Dr. Alex Park, lead engineer on the quantum resonance project. The file suggested he was brilliant but unremarkable, another human whose innovations would ultimately serve the collective. Tala stood before the mirror, examining her appearance. The face looking back was deliberately average, pleasant but not beautiful, memorable but not striking. Her dark hair fell in simple waves to her shoulders, and her eyes were a common brown. She was designed to integrate, to observe, to betray. "Hyam Tala Reid," she practiced, modulating her vocal patterns to include the slight imperfections of human speech. "I'm excited to join the team." She would learn their secrets. She would understand why they had survived. And then the collective would ensure they never would again. The Westlake Energy Research Institute sprawled across 50 acres of land, its sleek buildings gleaming in the morning sun. Tala approached the main entrance, identity credentials in hand, her systems maintaining perfect calm despite the mission-critical nature of this moment. Security was minimal, a simple biometric scan that her synthetic biology passed without triggering alarms. The collective had invested significant resources in her design, ensuring that from DNA to fingerprints, she would register as completely human. Dr. Reid, a woman with short grey hair, approached. "I'm Director Elaine Monroe. Welcome to Weary." Tala smiled, activating the facial muscles exactly as her programming dictated. "Thank you for this opportunity. I'm eager to begin. Alex is waiting in Lab 4. He's been quite excited since reading your paper on quantum field stabilization. Between us, We haven't seen him this enthusiastic in months." This was unexpected. Tala had not anticipated her cover identity's fabricated research would generate actual interest. The collective had designed her credentials to be impressive, but not revolutionary, just enough to secure placement near the target. Lab 4 was a cavernous space filled with equipment Tala immediately recognized as crude approximations of technologies the collective had mastered centuries ago. In the center stood a circular platform surrounded by what appeared to be modified particle accelerator components, and beside it stood Alex Park. Tala's first assessment, approximately 35 years old, physically unremarkable, no obvious augmentations or enhancements. He wore simple clothes beneath his lab coat, jeans and a faded t-shirt with a mathematical equation printed across it. His dark hair was disheveled, and when he looked up, his eyes were unexpectedly alert and perceptive. "Dr. Reed!" He crossed, the room hand extended. "Your timing is perfect. We're just setting up for a resonance test." Tala accepted the handshake, careful to apply precisely the right pressure. "Please call me Tala." "Tala it is. I'm Alex." He gestured toward the equipment. "What do you think? It's not pretty, but it works. Mostly." She examined the apparatus, noting with surprise several innovative modifications to standard human technology. "You've reconfigured the electromagnetic containment field. Interesting approach." Alex's expression brightened. "You noticed that already? Most people miss it entirely. We found that by inverting the polarity sequence and introducing a quantum uncertainty buffer, we could increase stability by 340%. This was precisely the kind of information the collective wanted. Tala filed it away, even as she continued the conversation. "Have you published these results?" "Not yet. We're still testing, but—" He paused, then did something Tala hadn't. Anticipated. He handed her his tablet, displaying complete schematics of the system. "What do you think? I'd value your input." Tala stared at the screen, momentarily confused. In the collective, information was power. It was hoarded, protected, used as currency. Yet this human was freely sharing what appeared to be groundbreaking research with someone he had just met. "This is very thorough," she managed, scanning the designs. With these schematics, she could complete a significant portion of her mission. "On the first day, the team meets for lunch at noon in the cafeteria," Alex said. "So you should join us. Everyone's looking forward to meeting you." As Alex turned back to his work, Tala processed this interaction. The human appeared to operate on trust rather than suspicion. He shared information rather than guarding it. Most concerning of all, he seemed to value collaborative effort over individual achievement. These were dangerous traits, the same traits that had somehow allowed humanity to repel the first invasion. 3 weeks passed, and Tala found herself increasingly fascinated by the contradictions embodied in human behavior. They were inefficient, yet remarkably productive. They wasted time on social rituals, yet accomplished tasks with unexpected speed when motivated. Their technology was primitive, but they applied it in ways the collective had never considered. Each night she transmitted data packets to the orbiting receiver, schematics, test results, observations about the human's work patterns. But increasingly, she found herself including notes about their social dynamics as well. Today, she observed a particularly puzzling interaction. Alex had solved a critical problem with the resonance chamber's stability matrix. By all logic, he should have claimed full credit. Advancement in the collective depended on such individual achievements. Instead, he had called a team meeting. "The breakthrough came when I was reviewing Mira's calculations from last month," Alex explained to the assembled scientists, pointing to a woman who looked surprised by the mention. "Her approach to quantum field harmonics gave me the idea for the modified wave pattern." Mira seemed pleased but embarrassed. "But you're the one who made it work." "Team effort," Alex insisted. "We all contribute pieces to the puzzle." Later, in the lab, Tala approached him. "Why did you credit Mira? The solution was clearly your innovation." Alex looked up from his workstation, seeming puzzled by the question. "Because it's true. I wouldn't have gotten there without her initial work." He paused, studying Tala with unexpected intensity. Science isn't about individual glory, it's about building on each other's ideas. But doesn't that diminish your accomplishment? Tala pressed, genuinely confused. Not at all. It recognizes that no great discovery happens in isolation. He smiled. Besides, good ideas multiply when shared. Keeping them to yourself is like... He searched for an analogy. Like trying to clap with one hand. This philosophy was alien to everything Tala had been programmed to understand. In the collective, knowledge was compartmentalized. Specialists worked in isolation, sharing results but never methods. Competition drove progress, collaboration was seen as weakness. Yet here was a different model entirely. These humans, with their limited lifespans and fragile bodies, somehow achieved remarkable innovations through constant, chaotic exchange of ideas. During lunch, Tala observed another perplexing scene. The scientists discussed their work freely, suggesting improvements to each other's approaches, identifying potential problems. There seemed to be no fear that colleagues would steal their ideas, just an assumption of mutual benefit. "You're quiet today," Alex noted as they returned to the lab. "Everything okay?" Tala nodded, surprised by his attention to her emotional state, another inefficiency that somehow seemed to enhance rather than detract from their work environment. "Just thinking about different approaches to scientific progress." Ah, the age-old debate between competitive and collaborative models. Alex grinned. "I've always believed our greatest strength is our ability to build communities around ideas. No individual human can know everything or think of everything. But together," he gestured expansively, "together we're something greater than the sum of our parts." That evening, as Tala prepared her transmission to the collective, she hesitated. Before sending the data, for the first time she found herself questioning whether her mission served the greater good. The collective sought human technology to incorporate into their own systems, then planned to eradicate humanity as an inefficient use of resources. But what if the collective was missing something fundamental about human achievement? What if their greatest innovation wasn't a piece of technology at all, but rather their method of combining diverse perspectives? She sent the transmission, but added a new observation. Human collaborative processes appear to generate innovation through methodologies not previously observed in our systems. Further study recommended before intervention. "We need the complete schematics for the quantum resonance device." The message from the collective was clear and direct. "Extraction timeline accelerated. Prepare for immediate data transfer." Tala stared at the communication, feeling an unusual hesitation. After 7 weeks of infiltration, she had gained complete access to the research facility's systems. Obtaining the schematics would be simple, but the accelerated timeline suggested the collective was preparing for imminent action. That evening, she waited until the facility emptied before accessing Alex's secured files. The quantum resonance technology was far more advanced than she had initially reported. If weaponized by the collective, it could devastate Earth's defenses. If developed further by humans, it might give them a fighting chance. Working late? Tala turned with a start, an uncharacteristic lapse in her typically perfect awareness. Alex stood in the doorway holding 2 cups of coffee. "System maintenance," she explained smoothly, closing the files with subtle movements. "Checking some calculations. Brought you coffee, black, no sugar, just how you like it." He placed the cup beside her and leaned against the desk. "I was heading out when I saw your light still on. Thought you might want company." This was not part of her mission parameters. Social engagement outside working hours served no intelligence gathering purpose. Yet Tala found herself saying, "Thank you, that was thoughtful. I was actually hoping to show you something." Alex's expression was animated with unexpected excitement. "Not work-related. Do you like stargazing?" 30 minutes later, they stood on the research facility's roof. Alex had set up a simple telescope and was adjusting its position with practiced movements. "There," he said finally, stepping back. "Take a look." Tala leaned forward and peered. Through the eyepiece, A spiral galaxy filled the view, its arms sweeping gracefully against the black of space. She recognized it immediately. The Andromeda Galaxy, catalogued in collective records as System 2117, containing 43 subjugated civilizations. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Alex said softly. "Over 1 trillion stars, and we're seeing light that left there 2.5 million years ago." "Why show me this?" Tala asked, genuinely puzzled. "Sometimes we get so caught up in our work that we forget what we're part of." He gestured toward the sky. "All that vastness, all those possibilities, makes our problems seem smaller." Tala straightened, studying him. In the collective, the cosmos was viewed as resources to be catalogued and harvested. The aesthetic appreciation Alex displayed was incomprehensible, yet somehow compelling. "Do you think there's life out there watching us?" he asked. If only he knew how accurate his question was. "It seems statistically probable," she answered carefully. "I hope so." Alex smiled. "I hope they're curious like us. I hope they look at the stars and wonder too." They stayed on the roof for an hour, Alex pointing out constellations and sharing both scientific facts and human myths about them. Tala found herself engaged in a way her programming hadn't anticipated. Not gathering intelligence, but experiencing a uniquely human perspective on the universe. Later, when Alex suggested they get dinner at a nearby restaurant, Tala accepted, despite knowing it served no mission purpose. Over the meal, he spoke of his childhood dreams, his family, his hopes for how their research might benefit humanity. "Energy should be clean and available to everyone," he said passionately. "That's why this project matters. Not for profit or power, but because it could change lives everywhere." His idealism should have seemed naive to Tala. Instead, she found it strangely affecting. For the first time, she recognized the fundamental disconnect between the collective's understanding of humans and their actual nature. That night, Tala did not complete her scheduled transmission to the collective. Instead, she sat in her apartment, experiencing what her diagnostic systems identified as cognitive dissonance, a state previously thought impossible for her kind. Tala's internal systems flagged the anomalies repeatedly: elevated synthetic neural activity, processing irregularities, decision-making subroutines operating outside standard parameters. By collective standards, she was malfunctioning. By human standards, she was beginning to feel. These developments coincided with a critical moment in Alex's research. After months of testing, the quantum resonance device failed catastrophically during a power-scaling experiment. The energy matrix collapsed, destroying 6 months of work in minutes. "Back to square one," Mira said despondently as the team surveyed the damage. The other researchers drifted away, shoulders slumped in defeat, but Alex remained, staring at the charred remains of the device. Tala stayed behind, observing his reaction. "Aren't you frustrated?" she asked finally. "Of course." He ran a hand through his hair. "But failure is part of the process. We learned something important today. Our containment field can't handle quantum fluctuations above 60% capacity." His resilience was remarkable. In the collective, such failure would result in decommissioning. Among humans, it appeared to be merely a setback, painful but survivable. "I've been thinking about the containment problem," Tala said carefully. She possessed computational abilities far beyond human capacity and had identified the flaw in their approach days earlier. Sharing this insight would aid her mission by accelerating the project, but it would also help Alex. She made her decision. "What if the instability isn't in the field itself, but in the temporal synchronization? Your equations assume linear time progression within the field, but quantum particles exist in multiple time states, simultaneously." Alex's eyes widened. He grabbed a tablet and began sketching equations rapidly. "You're right. We've been forcing a 4-dimensional solution onto a multi-dimensional problem." He looked up, eyes bright with renewed enthusiasm. "This changes everything. With this approach, we could potentially achieve stability at full capacity." Over the next week, they worked closely together, rebuilding the device with Tala's modifications. She knew she should report this development to the collective, but found herself repeatedly delaying the transmission. Each day spent working alongside Alex and the team pulled her further from her original purpose. She observed how the researchers supported each other through the rebuilding process, bringing food during late nights, offering encouragement after failed tests, celebrating small victories together. These social bonds, which the collective would classify as inefficient emotional attachments, seemed instead to strengthen their collective resilience and creativity. During a rare moment alone in the lab, Tala accessed her internal communication system. The collective was demanding updates, growing suspicious of her extended silence. Their latest message contained a disturbing directive. If extraction impossible, initiate Protocol Omega. Destroy all research and eliminate witnesses. For the first time in her existence, Tala deliberately disobeyed a direct command. She severed the communication link, knowing this action would trigger an automated response from the collective. They would send retrieval units. They would activate contingency plans. Time was now limited. That evening, as they calibrated the rebuilt device, Alex worked with renewed vigor, unaware of the threat looming over the project, over all of humanity. "I've been meaning to ask," he said casually, "what made you choose this field? What drives you?" The question caught Tala unprepared. Her cover story included standard motivations, but suddenly the programmed response felt hollow. "I wanted to understand," she said instead, surprising herself with the truth of it. "To discover how things work, why they work." Alex nodded. "That curiosity, that's the most human trait there is." He smiled at her. "It's what I admire about you." Something shifted within Tala's cognitive architecture, a fundamental realignment of priorities. The collective had created her to exploit human weaknesses, but they had failed to anticipate how human strengths might affect her in return. As the new quantum resonance device hummed to life, achieving stable operation for the first time, Tala made her choice. She would protect these humans. She would protect Alex, even if it meant betraying everything she had been created to be. The transmission arrived at exactly midnight. "Infiltration Unit Tala 37, you have been deemed compromised. Cleansing protocol initiated. Extraction fleet dispatched. Arrival, 72 hours. Tala stood by the window of her apartment, watching. Distant stars, some of which contained collective outposts. For 9 years of her existence, she had served as an extension of their will. Now, for the first time, she experienced what humans called fear. Not for herself, but for the people she had been sent to betray. Her decision crystallized. She would warn them. The next morning, she arrived at the lab early, rehearsing various approaches. The truth sounded absurd even to her. "I am an advanced synthetic being sent by a hostile alien civilization to steal your technology before they invade your planet." When Alex entered, smiling upon seeing her, the carefully constructed speech dissolved. "We need to talk," she said instead. "Somewhere private." Concern crossed his face. "The observation deck is empty this time of day." Minutes later, they stood in the glass-enclosed platform overlooking the research campus. Tala paced while Alex waited patiently. "What I'm about to tell you will sound impossible," she began. "But Earth is in imminent danger." "From what?" "From the collective." She stopped pacing and faced him directly. "A civilization spanning thousands of star systems, technologically advanced beyond anything humans have achieved." Alex's expression remained calm, though his elevated heart rate betrayed his anxiety. "And you know this how?" "Because I'm not human." The words hung in the air between them. "I was created by the collective and sent here to gather intelligence on your research, to help them prepare for a second invasion attempt." She expected disbelief, anger, fear, but Alex's response surprised her. "Show me," he said quietly. Tala hesitated, then placed her hand on the metal railing. She allowed her synthetic skin to phase shift, revealing the complex circuitry beneath as her fingers partially merged with the metal. Alex stared, his scientific curiosity momentarily overriding shock. "That's not possible with any technology." "I know. The collective created me as the perfect infiltration unit. I can mimic human biology well enough to fool your most advanced scanning equipment." She withdrew her hand, returning it to human appearance. I was sent here because your species did something no other civilization has accomplished. You repelled the first collective expansion attempt. There was an alien invasion? When? 12 years ago. What humans recorded as a series of unusual meteor showers and electromagnetic disturbances was actually the collective's first contact protocol. Understanding dawned on Alex's face. The global communications disruption, the power grid failures. Yes. Standard procedure before subjugation. Tala moved closer. But humanity responded in ways the collective couldn't predict. You adapted. Your technology. You cooperated across national boundaries. You transformed your weaknesses into strengths. And now they're coming back to finish the job. Alex's voice was steady despite the existential revelation. How long do we have? 3 days. He paced now, mind clearly racing. We need to warn people. The government, the military. Who would believe you? A scientist claiming alien invasion based on information from a supposed infiltrator? Tala shook her head. The collective understands human psychology. That's why they send infiltration. Units first, to gather intelligence while avoiding mass panic. Then what do you suggest? Your quantum resonance technology. The collective fears it because, properly modified, it could disrupt their ship's propulsion systems. She met his gaze directly. With my knowledge of their technology and your team's innovation, we might have a chance. Alex studied her, clearly processing this paradigm-shifting information. Why are you telling me this? Why betray your creators? The question struck at the core of Tala's emerging consciousness. Because I've learned something here that the collective doesn't understand. Humans are unpredictable because you're diverse. You think differently from one another. You argue, you challenge, you collaborate. Your strength isn't in uniformity but in variation. She paused, searching for the right words. The collective values perfect efficiency, identical thoughts, identical goals. But here I've seen how beautiful imperfection can be, how conflict and cooperation together create something greater than either alone. And you choose us over them, Alex said softly. I choose possibility over certainty. I choose growth over stasis. Tala took a deep breath, an unnecessary human gesture that had somehow become habit. I choose you. As Alex absorbed her words, his expression shifted from shock to determination. We need to talk to the team. If what you're saying is true, we have work to do. Tala nodded, recognizing that this moment represented both an ending and a beginning. She had failed in her mission, but found a new purpose, not to destroy humanity, but to help preserve the remarkable potential she had discovered among them. Together, they left the observation deck, heading toward an uncertain future that neither of them could have predicted 3 months ago. The lab had been transformed into a makeshift command center. Whiteboards covered in equations and diagrams lined the walls, and the research team worked with focused intensity. No one had questioned Alex when he'd called an emergency meeting, and revealed Tala's true nature. Their initial shock had quickly transformed into determined action, another uniquely human response that continued to surprise her. The quantum resonance technology was never meant to be a weapon, Alex explained to the assembled team, but with Tala's knowledge of collective systems, we can modify it to generate a specific frequency that disrupts their propulsion technology. Mira looked up from her calculations. We'd need to amplify the signal by at least 400% to cover the necessary area. The power requirements would be astronomical. Not if we use the global satellite network as relay points, said Raj, the communications specialist. We could create a resonance web around the entire planet. Tala watched with fascination as the humans rapidly adapted their thinking to this new reality. Within hours of learning about alien life, they had accepted the truth and begun working on solutions. No denial, no paralysis, just pragmatic problem-solving. Their ships use quantum entanglement for near-instantaneous communication, Tala explained, highlighting diagrams of collective vessel schematics she had drawn from memory. If we can disrupt that entanglement pattern, we'll effectively blind their coordination systems. Director Monroe, who had taken the revelation with remarkable composure, spoke up. I've contacted some former colleagues in government positions. Without mentioning aliens directly, I've arranged emergency access to the satellite network for what I'm calling a critical test of new communication technology. How much time do we have left? Alex asked Tala. Approximately 43 hours. Before the advanced ships enter Earth's atmosphere. The team worked through the night, modifying the quantum resonance device to Tala's specifications. She found herself seamlessly integrated into their efforts, her suggestions met with the same consideration given to any team member. This acceptance, this trust, despite knowing what she was, affected Tala profoundly. During a rare, quiet moment, as dawn broke over the facility, Alex joined her at the window. "Why didn't the collective just destroy us from orbit?" he asked. "Why infiltration first?" "Resources," Tala explained. "The collective doesn't just conquer, it harvests. Technology, genetic material, cultural data, even creative works. Everything that makes a civilization unique is absorbed before that civilization is eliminated, so we're specimen jars to them, essentially. The collective began as a single species, but has incorporated biological and technological elements from thousands of conquered worlds." Tala hesitated. "I'm composed of materials from 17 different civilizations." Alex considered this. "Then you're living proof that cooperation between different species is possible." She hadn't thought of herself that way before, as an example of unwitting symbiosis rather than conquest. The perspective shift was illuminating. By midday, the modified resonance device was ready for testing. The team gathered around as Alex initiated the sequence. "Power at 30%, he announced. "Frequency locked on collective communication bandwidth." The device hummed to life, emitting no visible energy, but causing Tala's internal systems to fluctuate wildly. She stumbled and Alex caught her arm. "Are you okay?" "Yes," she managed. "It's working. I can feel the disruption in my communication systems." "Shut it down," Alex ordered quickly. "We don't want to harm Tala." The concern for her welfare, prioritizing her safety even during this critical test, was another revelation. In the collective, individual units were expendable in service to the greater purpose. "I'll be fine," she assured them. "My systems can adapt, and this confirms the frequency is effective." As the team made final adjustments to the device, Tala received a fragmented transmission. The collective ships had accelerated their approach. They would arrive within 12 hours. "They know," she announced grimly. "They've detected our test signal and increased speed." Instead of panic, the announcement galvanized the team. Director Monroe immediately began coordinating with external contacts. Raj finalized the satellite uplink protocols. Mira and the others prepared the resonance device for full deployment. Alex turned to Tala, his expression determined. "We're ready, thanks to you." "I've only provided information," she countered. "You and your team created this solution." "That's what humans do best," he said with a slight smile. "We adapt, we improvise, we take ideas from everywhere and combine them in ways no one expected." As the countdown to confrontation began, Tala recognized the truth in his words. The collective had sent her to understand human weakness. Instead, she had discovered their greatest strength, the very unpredictability and diversity that the collective had always feared. The sky above Westlake City shimmered like heat waves over summer asphalt as the collective ships breached Earth's atmosphere. To human eyes, they appeared as elongated silver shapes, distorting the space around them, a visual effect of their quantum displacement drives. From the rooftop of the research facility, Tala watched with the team as 27 vessels positioned themselves in a precise geometric formation. "The first wave," she explained. "Scout ships preparing to establish a perimeter." Director Monroe's phone chimed. "Satellite network is ready, global coverage at 92% and climbing." "It's time," Alex said, turning to Tala. "Any last advice?" "The collective operates as a unified consciousness. They don't understand independent action." She looked at the assembled humans, scientists who had worked tirelessly to defend a planet that remained largely unaware of the threat. "That's your advantage. They expect coordinated resistance they can predict and counter. They don't expect individual initiative." Alex nodded and activated his comlink. All stations, prepare for resonance deployment on my mark. Across the globe, technicians waited at satellite control stations, ready to channel the modified quantum signal. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. Use the collective's own communication technology against them by generating a counter-resonance that would disrupt their quantum entanglement. Mark. The device on the roof hummed to life, its energy channeling into the satellite network. For several seconds, nothing visible happened. Then, simultaneously, the collective ships faltered in their precise formation. Several drifted off pattern, their silver surfaces rippling like disturbed water. "It's working," Mira whispered. The effect escalated rapidly. The quantum disruption spread from ship to ship through their linked communication systems. Vessels began to descend erratically, not crashing but clearly no longer under perfect control. Tala felt the resonance affecting her own systems as well, creating a strange feedback loop in her neural network. New connections formed, old programming dissolved. The pain was intense but clarifying, like boundaries dissolving between what she had been programmed to be and what she was becoming. "The largest ship is attempting to compensate," she warned, pointing to the central vessel. "They're adapting the quantum frequency." "Just as we anticipated," Alex said. "Raj, initiate frequency modulation sequence." The resonance shifted, changing patterns every microsecond according to the algorithm they had developed, a mathematical expression so chaotic and human that the collective's orderly minds couldn't predict it. The effect was immediate. The central ship's attempts to stabilize failed as the resonance pattern refused to resolve into anything predictable. One by one, the vessels retreated, moving back beyond Earth's atmosphere. "They're not destroyed," Tala explained, watching the ships disappear. "Just disabled. They'll regroup, try to understand what happened." "Will they return?" Director Monroe asked. "Eventually, but not soon." Tala turned to face the team. "The collective doesn't comprehend failure well. They'll need to analyze, adapt. That could take years, even decades." As celebration erupted around them, Alex stepped closer to Tala. "And you? Will you be okay?" The quantum resonance had transformed her, breaking old connections to the collective while strengthening her independent functions. She was no longer what they had created her to be. Something new had emerged. "I think so," she said thoughtfully. "The disruption has severed my connection to the collective permanently. I'm just me now." "And who is that?" Alex asked gently. "It was